Hey everybody, welcome. Good time zone to you. We are a day away from the Streamer Showdown. Not Streamer Showdown, excuse me, the, what do they call it? The preview stream. Streamer, early access streamer preview of Kaldheim. And I'm very excited about that. One of my favorite times of the year. We basically get it 4 times a year where we get to try out drafting the latest Magic set, really as the first, the first public play of it. It happens on the preview stream with these streamers, and I feel very fortunate to be part of it. And we're gonna try to get right out of the gate tomorrow. I think my normal time of starting is 9 a.m. Pacific. I might start early tomorrow to try and get a jump on getting into the drafts and everything. But today we are going to actually just discuss the format a bit. This is an exploration of a possible ongoing set feature. I was thinking about it this weekend, and historically, I've decided, since the Wednesday before the Thursday launch is always the day of the preview stream. So the Wednesday before a set launch is a big day for me for streaming. And I've been talking about taking the Monday and Tuesday off ahead of a new set, but I'm liking the idea of taking the Monday off, but then on Tuesday doing what we're going to do today in kind of a rough form, and I'll have it more polished for the next set, which is, in LR speak, maybe a sunrise show, basically coming up with a list of things that we ask ourselves about a new set. Sequencing for breaking down a new set. How do we take this list of cards and rules from a new Magic set, and besides just doing a set review and talking about each card individually in a vacuum or even in context as it starts to unfold, instead of a card by card snapshot, how can we take a broader look at what we can understand about a format and have some better sense of things going in, better tools going in, at least an idea of what we want to do and try going in. Maybe we won't be right, but sometimes we will be, and it always feels good to go in with a plan, even if you're not, you understand that it takes playing to truly understand something. So to truly understand a Magic set, you can learn a lot before you even play by asking the right questions. So today I'm going to focus on figuring out what questions to ask, asking the right questions, and answering them with you through some card searching and web searching. I believe what I want to do for next time is actually do the searching ahead of time instead of us live searching up cards and looking at the set together. Kind of spending airtime on searching. I want to do the searching, get our questions established, and then ask and answer them ahead of this, and then just kind of go over them with you when we are together talking about it at the next set. Does that make sense? So I'm expecting it to be a little clunkier today. First time out, trying out a new thing, trying out a new idea, a new approach to preview limited, and we'll try and refine it for next time. But it starts with just doing it. Oh yeah, we'll do some crack-a-packs. I think we're going to start by talking about stuff, and then we'll finish on some Heroku app drafts to test our knowledge. We can either draft against bots or draft with each other just to get a feel for it, right? So that's what I'm going to do today. And I'm hoping that this will be something that's great for the future of the stream. Something that's great for the future of your tabletop Magic experience is making an account at cardkingdom.com. They're my sponsor, and they are purveyors of everything for your physical Magic game. Singles, supplies, sealed product. It's all there. They got an incredible inventory, the buy list that's the envy of the industry. And if you turn that buy list into store credit, you'll have an inventory that's also the envy of the industry. And you have so much to choose from when you have store credit at Card Kingdom. Whether it's a new booster box of the latest set, you want to pre-order something from the singles side for your new commander deck, that kind of thing. Check it out. Remember to check them out via my affiliate link in the panels down below, in the link in chat, or in the YouTube notes that'll get you there from here. Lets them know you're a Going Optimal viewer and that you care about supporting me. And then any purchases you make, if you do business with them after using my affiliate link, it ties it directly with my channel, which is really nice for going to Card Kingdom when we look at my numbers and saying, look, people are buying because of me, Card Kingdom. You should keep me on the air, right? Right. And if you don't have money to spend with them, checking them out still helps. Word of mouth, let your friends know I'm streaming. That also helps too. So that being said, let's move on. I'm going to hit the left screen here. And we're going to be at Scryfall. This is kind of the leading card search tool out there right now. We're kind of lucky to have Scryfall as Magic fans, I think. And I got to get some stuff set up here so I can properly communicate with you all. I have a Word doc of stuff to consider. All right. So, welcome. I'm going to try and run through this list here again. Going to be clunky this time, but we're going to identify questions to ask and hopefully refine a feature for the future that I can work with. And I want to look at, I'm going to start with the thing I think is still correct. Even, Luis and Marshall didn't start here because of the density of stuff, but we are going to do, let's see, how do we do how do we enforce gold? Is there a way to do that here? Colors, exactly these colors, including these colors at most these colors. See? But there is no gold. I'm talking about on Scryfall. Well, I'll do this. I'll just search by uncommon and then sort by color and go to the end. Now I gotta find rarity. Here we go. Let's look at uncommons and search. And then view. Sort by color, and then we'll scroll to the end. All right, that's funny. Our first one is the bottom of the screen here. It's weird. I'm all right. I just got to trust that it looks okay. Normally, I stream with. I'm able to glance at what the stream is looking like, but I'm kind of covering that up. So if anything is really weird on screen, let me know, because I'm actually not able to see what you're seeing right now. Okay, so I'm going to start by looking. We're just going to cruise through the gold uncommons right now. What I would do in a better prepared, like for next time, my plan is to go through and find, if there's multiples, find one card, maybe even a card that's monocolored, but a card that I think represents what each color pair is up to. So Nico Defies Destiny, 1 white blue. I don't know if these saga, we'll see. Let's see what the sagas point to. It's a saga, and you gain 2 life for each foretold card you own in exile. So immediately you're gaining back some, so it looks like incidental life gain, right? And for the player playing the foretold deck, indicates that, so the first thing you see is that it cares about foretold. So that screams at me that white-blue is foretold matters, and that white and blue have heavy amounts of foretold. Chapter 2, add white-blue. Spend this mana only to foretell cards or cast spells that have foretell. There you go, still in the foretell vein. And then return target card with foretell from your graveyard to your hand. Does anybody have an idea what a signpost for for white-blue this is? Could it be that this is a foretell color pair? Yeah, looks like it. And foretell I don't know how aggro Foretell can be. Certainly there's some aggressive Foretell creatures, but it seems like a mechanic that plays into a longer game. You know, that you're setting yourself up for value later and that kind of thing. This feels, yeah, I don't think this card is particularly good, but I'm not here to actually assess quality of the card. I'm here to try to learn what blue and white are up to. So it looks like Foretell Matter. This is a lot of work. Yeah, you're right, though, that, like, I don't know what this mana boost is really doing, and returning a card from Foretell with my graveyard to my hand is nice, but that's 3 turns away or whatever. That's a lot to ask. Meanwhile, Vega the Watcher, also that color pair. Looks like we get to see back-to-back of each color, so that'll be interesting to see how the sagas and the legends measure up, because it looks like we see the cycle now. Each color pair has a saga and a legend, and uncommon. Vega the Watcher is our blue, white one, white blue, legendary bird spirit, flying 2/2. So you got a Wind Drake right out of the gate, and then whenever you cast a spell from anywhere other than your hand, i.e. Foretell, draw a card. So now all of your Foretell cards cantrip. This is your, so it just reinforces that yes, these are the Foretell colors, but this is the build around. This is the one that you would slam and really try to make it work, right? So like Vega a lot, and I expect to be picking Vega early unless blue-white turns out to be just a terrible color pair, which happens, you know. So we've learned that blue-white is heavily foretelling. Now we're going to see what blue-black is up to. It starts with the legend, Narfi. Narfi? Sorry, Narfi, that's a heck of a name to get saddled with, but hey, Narf. What's up, Narf? Betrayer King. 4/3 for 5 mana. Snow creature, so I'm wondering if blue-black is snowy. Other snow and zombie creatures you control get +1/+1. And triple snow, return Narf from your graveyard to the battlefield tapped. And it's not even, there's like no other resource involved, so really it's just like, if this is in your graveyard and you've got enough snow mana, it can't really die. Very powerful for a late game. I mean, it's a 5 mana 4/3, which is underpowered, but it's obviously making the rest of your stuff pretty good. And really, again, I'm not too worried about assessing the exact power level of this card. I'm here to see that, okay, it's screaming snow, that blue-black is one of the snow colors, and that there's a zombie creature theme. So we're going to keep tribal in mind too, because I know one of the themes, or one of the mechanics in the set is shapeshifter, which lets creatures be all creature types. So shapeshifters are going to get buffed by zombies, and I know there's shapeshifters in blue. So that's could be what's going on here too. Shapeshifter zombies and black zombies in a zombies matter thing as well. Trickster God's Heist is our saga in blue-black, 4 mana total. And Chapter 1 is you may exchange control of 2 target creatures. Chapter 2 is you may exchange control of 2 target non-basic, non-creature permanents that share a type. So switch something else, swap, swap. So far this is very blue. Where's the black? Chapter 3, here's the black. Target player loses 3 life and you gain 3 life. This feels very not signposty, right? And that happens sometimes too. Which is why I would say that in a long view of this thing that I'm doing today, I would be willing to like say, hey, this uncommon actually isn't a signpost for what the color pair is doing. Let's find something that is. In any case, this just looks like a value card. The most valuable thing on it, though, is Chapter 1. The rest of it seems incidental, and you're lucky if it happens. So you can't trade basic lands, but you can trade non-basic lands. That's interesting. But yeah, treasure tokens, I guess that means if you're making treasure tokens, you could potentially use Chapter 2 to steal a good artifact of theirs. But again, we're not really worried too much about 2 and 3. Mainly this is, can you swap 2 target creatures with value, but not really a signpost. Just an interesting control magic that requires you give up something of your own. That's interesting, yeah. Control 2 target non-basic, non-creature permanents that share a card type. So yes, if they have a valuable enchantment, you could actually give them the Trickster God's Heist if you're willing to give them Chapter 3. Maybe you don't care about the 3 mana drain and that stealing their enchantment is more worth it. That's a good point. But the main point of our exercise today, and I'll try, it's hard not to just review every card like a set review, but again, we're not really here to decide how good Trickster's God's Heist is. We're here to try to understand this format. So I got to avoid these rabbit holes where we get too much into what the quality of any given one of these cards. Carder Doomscourge, 2 black, red for a 4/3, and when it enters the battlefield until your next turn, the creatures your opponents control attack each combat if able and attack a player other player, forget it. And whenever an attacking creature dies, each opponent loses 1 life and you gain 1 life. So death trigger draining and forced attacks screams that red-black, not surprisingly, is aggro. But sometimes red-black can be attrition control. You know, card draw in black and removal in both colors allow you to play an attrition game. But it looks like as a signpost, this is saying you want to get down creatures early. You want to curve out with low curve, top your curve with Cardor, and then slam the Cardor shut on your opponent as they are going to not be able to deal with your onslaught of creatures that are useful even when they die. Cardor's Vicious Return is the saga. Chapter 1, sack a creature. When you do, deals 3 damage. Oh, you may sack. So it can. It's a lightning bolt if you're willing to give up something small. And each player discards a card. That's just generic goodness in black. Yeah, these sagas look less signposty in general, although the white one was pretty signposty. The white-blue one was pretty signposty. This is more Value Town, although it does have sack a creature, so it's worth noting that the uncommon supports some sort of sack for value plan. If you can, it's 4 mana, but if you can steal a creature for something cheap and then play the saga, you could sack your opponent's creature. You can do steal and sack with that. But that's just pretty typical red and black to have some of that available. Mainly Cardor saying get aggro. Then we have Arnie. These names are funny to me. I don't know. Arnie just feels like my buddy Arnold. Hey Arnie, how you doing, pal? How's that lemonade and iced tea? Anyway, Arnie's slaying some trolls for red and a green, and it's a saga. Target creature you control fights, so we got a classic fight. Add red, counters on creature, and gain life. Yeah, more, no signposts here, just value, red-green value saga. What about Ice Shaper? Here we go, this is more signposty. Svella, Ice Shaper, 1 red-green for a legendary snow creature Troll Warrior. 3, tap, create a colorless snow artifact with token named Icy Manalith with tap, add 1 mana of any color. Is there an Icy Manalith in the set? Is that a real card? It must, right? It would be, I think it would be bad. No? Interesting. You think, I would actually just play, I would make it an Icy Manalith, but whatever, that's fine. So it ramps, that's what we're learning. Snow, ramp, and then 6 red, green, 8 total mana. Look at the top 4 cards of your library. You may cast a spell from among them without paying its mana cost. Put the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. Now, it's no great bargain to pay 8 mana to cast something for free, because free is 8. That's not cheap, but this is I love the dream that Svella sells here. I do love the dream, and I love the signpost. This is telling us that we have another snow pair, although maybe it's telling us that snow is everywhere, because we have red-green at uncommon having a snow creature and blue-black having a snow creature. So maybe it's just that, maybe what we're learning is that white is not snow, ironically. And or maybe we just haven't seen the white snow cards yet, right? But my takeaway from, in terms of signpost here, is that green red is looking to ramp and is looking to have cards worth casting for free when you find them in the top 4 of your library. So keep that in mind. You're either ramping to hard cast these yourself, or you get to activate and cast them for free. So ramp, got it. Fall of the Imposter, white green. So often white green is underpowered in limited. I have really been enjoying M21 Quick Draft offline just because green white is so good in M21. It feels fun to play green white where it's relevant. Let's see what green white is doing in this set and whether it can crack that quality level. Fall of the Imposter, 1 green white is the saga. It 1 and 2 puts a +1/+1 counter on up to 1 target creature. So it's just kind of throwing counters around. Okay. And then on chapter 3, exile a creature with the greatest power among creatures target opponent controls. Interesting. I suppose, I mean, mostly this is make a couple of things better on your side and then exile something big. The timeline is tough. It's tough that you need to wait, but good payoff. I don't know if this is signposty in terms of, is this a +1/+1 counter theme? Unclear. But certainly if it is, this helps that a lot. But I think so far we've seen mostly value engines with the sagas, which is fine. On-color saga engines, or on-color value engines. And then one line of play they're suggesting here is that you could, let's say their actual biggest threat is not not their 4/4, but it's this 3/3 that has really cheap pump to make it a 8/8 or something. Like you could put a +1/+1 counter on their 3/3 on chapter 2 so that when you chapter 3 it exiles it. That seems like mostly fancy play, but it is a line that offers. And here I am going deep on cards again. This is not a signpost. Maja, Bretagard Protector, hopefully will be. 2 green, white for a 2/3, so we want a lot out of this card. Other creatures you control get +1/+1. That implies go wide to an extent. Whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, create a 1/1 white human warrior creature token. And that is go wide. And there you go. So landfall, go wide. Also, this always comes up. People will ask, hey, this clearly has landfall. Why doesn't it say landfall on it? They could just write landfall. And the answer is because landfall is not a load-bearing focus of this set's mechanics. Even though this technically has landfall, it's actually more confusing for newer players to see 1 or 2 random instances of a keyword they're not familiar with yet, rather than just having rules text that explain it. So if you're ever wondering why they didn't just, why don't they use blah keyword? It's because of new players and not wanting to overload them with something that's not really a focus of the set. That being said, go wide looks like. So now I'm going to keep an eye out for white token makers and green token makers. There's just something in green making insect tokens or whatever, right? Ascent of the Worthy is another saga. Is it just more generic value in black-white? Chapter 1 and 2. Basically, you can... What is that? Pariah. I think there's an old enchantment called Pariah that is chapter 1 and 2. So you can make something a Pariah for chapters 1 and 2. And then chapter 3, return target creature from your graveyard to the battlefield with a flying counter on it. So basically, you set something up to die, but to save you for a couple of turns. And then you can bring it back is kind of the game. But, oh, is that a non-booster card? Just don't let me, if I start to talk about a non-booster card as though it's in the booster, let me know. But I can keep an eye on it. Yeah, like 393, I'll avoid Rampage. I see what to do. It's this one down here. So not much signposty there, though. Just kind of another saga telling a story and doing a thing. Meanwhile, the Judge of Valor here, Firya? 2 white, black. So 5 mana total for a 2/4 flying lifelink. And whenever you cast your second spell of each turn, look at the top 3 cards of your library, put one of them into your hand and the rest into your graveyard. Hold on a second. I'm going to make a note of something. Second spell. So, lifelink is maybe suggestive of a life gain matters, but it's not necessarily. Lifelink is just a thing that both white and black get, so it often appears on creatures. It would be more of a signpost that life gain matters if there was something that triggered off of life gain here, if this was a payoff. Mainly, the payoff we see here is casting a second spell. So perhaps the white-black mechanics provide a lot of payoffs for casting a second spell each turn. We'll see. And yeah, it does indicate that put one in your hand and the rest into your graveyard, that stocking your graveyard could be important for white-black. It usually is for black, but the question is there white that's taking advantage of a stocked graveyard in this set as well? Egar the Freezing Flame here is 1 blue-red for the 3/3 legendary giant wizard, and whenever a creature or planeswalker an opponent controls is dealt excess damage, if a giant wizard or spell you control dealt damage to it this turn, draw a card. So we've talked about this card on air. Somebody asked me to redeem channel points for having me talk about this, I believe, or maybe we just did a crack-a-pack. Regardless, build around and signposting is pretty obvious here. It's screaming in your face that giants and wizards matter to red and blue, and that you're going to be looking for those. And also, red and blue is the color of shapeshifting in the set, so every shapeshifter is both a giant and a wizard for all of the giant, wizard, or spell you control. Spell matters, and I bet we'll be seeing this. It would shock me if this was just a random one-off build around. I assume that there's giant and wizard payoffs throughout the set. Invasion of the Giants suggests giants here is the theme on the saga. Opening on a Scry 2 mana. Not really what I want to be doing on turn 2 in this format. Probably want to be creating casting a creature or foretelling something. 2 is draw a card, then you may reveal a giant card from your hand. Okay, when you do, Invasion of the Giants deals 2 damage to target opponent or planeswalker. That's pretty weak, actually. I was ready for 2 damage to target creature or player, and that would be exciting if you could shock something. I don't like this yet, but what about Chapter 3? Next giant spell you cast this turn costs 2 less to cast. That's a lot of medium here. It's only 2 mana, but I don't know if I even like this for giants, but it certainly does add to the signposting of giantage, right? So we see pretty clearly that red-blue is your giant's matter color. Yeah, that's true. Sorry, draw a card is good. I was assessing everything but the draw card. Thank you. That does make a difference. It's Chapter 2, so it's a little bit. It would be nice if that were Chapter 1, but I guess Scry 2 sets you up. Really, what the sequencing is really letting you find that giant to try and get your 2 damage in. But thank you. Yeah, the draw card does make it quite playable, as opposed to I don't know about this. Binding of the Old Gods gets to the black-green side of town. Destroy target non-land permanent opponent controls. Wow. All right, I'm done. I'm in, but it looks like more Value Town. Search your library for a forest card. Yep, Value Town. And then creatures you control gain Death Touch until end of turn. More red-green value, but nothing to help us signposty. What about Harold? More kings. Harold is the king of Skemfar. And 1 black-green for a 3/2 elf warrior. Menace. And when it enters the battlefield, look at the top 5 cards of your library. You may reveal an elf warrior or a Tivar card from among them. What is that a legend? I don't know who Tivar is, but I assume mainly we're looking at elves and warriors here, and then there's some card in the set that if you get lucky you can find. Or in constructed, and put it into your hand. Put the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. So, okay. Green, black, looking to be elf, warrior, tribal. Interesting, because I know shapeshifters were obviously in blue and red, but I wasn't aware of them being in green or black. Not aware of them not being there, but just the only thing I was sure of about shapeshifters is that they're in red and blue. And I didn't know about green and black, so we'll see if shapeshifters support this elf warrior theme, and if this is really signposty or not. No shapeshifters in red at all. Okay, And here I am saying things that aren't true. I assume shapeshifter because of the giant theme in red blue, but I'm making assumptions that chat is telling me is not true. So where shapeshifters are in green and blue. Okay, so the shapeshifters are in green and blue. We haven't gotten to the green blue signposts yet, so maybe when we get to green blue it'll be like, oh, there you go. If I had seen this first, I would not have made that mistake. But what it means is that if green and blue are the shapeshifter colors, one of the green, at least one of the blue pairs and at least one of the green pairs cares about tribal to take advantage of that centering of shapeshifting in green and blue. And of course, shapeshifting does make sense in green and blue. We've seen blue be the cloning. Blue is obvious, of course, right? Because blue is cloning things and shapeshifting all the time. Green, less obvious, but totally does make sense as a secondary shapeshifting color, that Simic-y type vibe. Anyway, thanks for that clarification, chat. Very good to know. That does explain what's going on here, and that, yes, there's some green shapeshifting to support this elf warrior tribal going on. We're now to the Boros. Boros Saga wants to create some treasure and search for legend or equipment. So, okay, so there is a suggestion here from this saga that maybe there's a way to do the equipment thing in Boros. We'll see. And then Forge Master makes me think equipment is the thing here. Cole, the Forge Master, red, white, 2/2, Dwarf Warrior. So we got a Grizzly Bear right out of the gate. That's nice. Hard to cast, but better than red, red, or white, white. Red, white is easier than either of those other two. Whenever another non-token creature you control dies, if it was enchanted or equipped, return it to its owner's hand. Very nice. Creature tokens you control that are enchanted or equipped get +1/+1. So Cole is saying whether you're working with tokens or whether you're working with non-tokens, if you equip them up, I'm here to help. So truly, now we're getting screamed at by Boros that it cares about equipment. Makes me a little nervous. We'll see how good the equipment overall is in the set. But I think one of the reasons that aggro failed to be the fun police that it usually is in something like Dominaria is because the theme was around equipment and it didn't really deliver. So I know there's the uncommon equipment that we're going to get, the new living weapons that are going to make equipment definitely a thing. All right. Here we get to the blue-green. So this will probably tell me this should probably slam home the shapeshifter thing, right? So 2 green, blue, blue, legendary snow creature. So we're snow again. So I guess again we see no white, but we see snow everywhere else. And it's a legendary snow creature, shapeshifter. So there you go. Signpost in the type line. Has changeling. You may have it enter the battlefield as a copy of a permanent you control, except it's legendary and snow in addition to other types. And if it's a creature, it enters with 2 additional +1/+1 counters on it and has changeling. Strong, expensive, but that's if you can copy something reasonable and then it becomes so this feeds all sorts of stuff. Yeah, it's like a copy of a permanent you control, not creature, permanent. So you can get more sagas, more artifacts, whatever. So very, very flexible and clearly supporting the both snow and tribal. So looks like snow just pervasive, but this is very, very snowy. And I say that because it's a snow creature in and of itself, and it makes another one. We'll get to the individual mechanics in a bit, but one thing I'm looking for with the snow mechanic is where are the single snow cards that produce multiple snow permanents? I think that's going to matter a lot. And Morite is one of those, so keep that in mind. The 3 Seasons Saga, mill 3, return up to 2 snow. So again, snow permanents, 2 snow permanent cards from your graveyard to your hand. Mill 3 helps you get there. I'm not going to do this on turn 2 very often, though. I'm going to wait until I have hopefully at least 1, ideally 2 snow permanents to return. And then Chapter 3, choose 3 cards in each graveyard. Their owners shuffle those cards into their libraries. So that's interesting as well. If your opponent has done some self-mill, you can put 3 lands back in theirs and make their library more land rich. You can put 3 action cards back into yours and make yours spell rich. Not very signposty except for Chapter 2, though. But we see that, again, green, blue is indeed tribal via shape-shifting and heavy snow. And then we're at the end of the uncommons. So there we go. So that was the first thing I wanted to do, is get a sense of the archetypes based on looking at the signposts. And next thing I want to do is look at the commons of each color. I think that's the next step. You know, the limited resources set review is commons and uncommons, and that makes total sense. But if we really think about what drives a format, and if you and this happens when you think back to formats of old, what really starts to stand out are the busted commons. The really desirable commons are the cards that end up defining formats. And to that extent, to that end, R&D knows this. R&D changes their process a lot, and it's been a while since I've been there, so I don't know for sure if they still do this. But one of the things that R&D does to balance limited formats is called the top 15. And the way top 15 works is you have everybody on the development team vote on, or you come to a consensus on what the top 3 commons are in each color. The top 3 commons. Then you put those on the whiteboard, and then you kind of come to a consensus and you start to stack rank those 15 cards, right? So now you've got ostensibly the 15 best commons in the format, and you hope that you have the 15 best commons in the sense that you want each color to have 3. You don't want red to have 5 of the best 15 and green to have 1. You want all of them to have 3. And so then you come to a consensus in the room about what's the best, second best, third best, and then pretty soon you have a stack ranked 1 through 15 from 3 commons of every color, and you start to look at that and say, whoa, we went through this and decided that green has the 12th, 13th, and 15th best commons. That is not good enough. Those are the best 3 commons in green, but that means green is terrible. We need to help green, right? So that's the point of that kind of process. But it can help us too to understand what are the cards that are going to define this format. And the removal is always pretty easy to see that it's going to define the format, and it ends up defining it in ways we'll get into when we look at each piece. But I'm especially interested in the non-removal that defines the format. So for example, again, I've been playing a lot of M21 in my spare off-stream time because I like the revisit, and something that like Pteranodon, the drowsy Pteranodon is, I think, a format defining common, for example, and the Feat of Resistance is a format defining common. And we're gonna so what I'm looking for here now is format defining common, and this is where I would, in the future, I'm going to try to have more of this work done in advance. We'll just start with this. And again, I don't want this to be a set review. I don't want to necessarily go through every common and uncommon in the set, but I do want to look out for some things here. Also, we should do, not only are we looking for like what we consider the top 3, we want to consider what types of typical things we see from white and how good they are here. So what I'm talking about here is, how does white's weenies look? Do the weenies look strong? Is white going to have good curve out aggro? What is white's removal? Is it a 3-mana pacifism? Does it stop activated abilities? Is it what is white doing for pacifism-based removal? Life gain. Is there incidental life gain in white? Because if white ends up having really good incidental life gain at common, it can impact how good aggro is in the format. What does white's cheap flyers look like, or even expensive? Like what does the flying look like at common? Is there full team pump? Often, if there's all your creatures get +2 or +2 at least, then suddenly that's a thing that if you have that at common in white, produces the possibility of a go wide strategy. What kind of tricks does white have? This is where I get to that feat of resistance thing. Sometimes when white gets protective tricks that are strong enough, it can be what defines the color. So we want to keep an eye out for that as well. And let's see. So boasting, we got a 3/3. Yeah, this is just okay. I'm looking for cards that leap out at me is important. Battlefield Raptor leaps out at me as a 1-mana 1/2 flying first strike. Historically, that hasn't been a good card. If this were in some 7-year-old format, I would probably in the dark say we're not playing it. But these days, there's so much going on with what you can do to a 1 power. They've just been getting better, and we'll see. But just worth noting in terms of that, noting the skies there. We have a 2/1 that dies into a 1/1 token. We've seen this before. It's a fine filler card. You're happy to get it in general. One thing I want to look at common as well is the prevalence of 1 toughness. If there's a lot of 1/1 tokens and a lot of 1 toughness at common, you can like how good a 1 toughness 2 power plus creature is a question I want answered about a new format, because that's going to tell you that interaction between freely available 1/1 tokens and 1 toughness is something that every format should be taking a look at in terms of understanding that situation. So here's Bound in Gold. This is the pacifism for white. This is going to be one of the top 3. I'm sure R&D consider this one of the top 3 white commons. And can't attack, block, crew vehicles, and its activated abilities can't be activated unless they're mana abilities. And it is enchant permanent. So that's really interesting. It could even go on if your opponent happens to play a Planeswalker, you could actually enchant a Planeswalker and its activated abilities wouldn't be able to be activated, So again, we see this every set. The question, but here's what we need to ask about the card in this set. We've seen last time the Fetters, not Faith's Fetters, that was the good one. The 1 white pacifism from the last set. It was often a source of debate for us as we were talking about and here he's binding. Thank you. Just how good is binding and what made it good or not good. Some things that made binding less good in the last set. Double white, first of all. 1 white versus 2 and a white is no joke in its difference. The number of things it shuts off is relevant. And the other thing is the number of things that punish you for not removing your opponent's creature off the board completely. That's a thing that often dooms a card like Bound in Gold from being good in a set. If Bounce is really good, or if Sacrifice for Value is really good, or if green has a lot of easily main deckable naturalized type effects, these cards can plummet in value in a format. But we're going to go out of the gate assuming that this is a premium removal, or at least I am, unless through our searching today we come up with lots of reasons that this is not good. If we just see lots of reasons that are going to drag this down, then we got to keep that in mind. But I'm going to assume this is one of our top 3 white cards. In fact, maybe I'll start tracking what my top 3 are, and we can check with chat too. So Bound in Gold I'm going to put as one of our top 3. Let's see. Code Spell Cleric, a 1/1 for 1, Vigilant. Some play 2 spells rewards, which we saw was a white-black, but I don't think this is a top 5 or top 3. Doomscar Oracle. Whenever you cast your second spell each turn, you gain 2 life, and it's got the Foretell. Also, fine card, but I doubt is top 3. Let's see. Maybe it's, sometimes just like, uh-oh, I'm out of cards. We got to go find something that's top 3. Well, I believe Code Spell is a real card. I just don't think it's top 3. Let's talk about what this is doing in the set. And like maybe I'm jumping into the commons too soon. We can talk about. This is where I'm trying to figure out what the right sequencing is. And so I'm totally listening for your feedback today too, gang, because I'm trying to set this up to be better the next time I do it. And I like starting from the Signpost Uncommons, but maybe after Signpost Uncommons comes a mechanical breakdown, like talking about the different keyword mechanics in the set. Because I think having talked about the keyword mechanics would help us assess a thing like where Cleric belongs in this set. Because I think the 2 spell thing matters. One thing I'm noticing, here's where I was kind of getting at with the whole mechanic thing. Foretell is super interesting because of what it does to the turn reliability of turn 2 plays and the usefulness of the 1 mana play. When you're in a format that offers more 2 mana plays than any other format in history, I'm saying that, and I think it's true, prove me wrong, but if you call every card with Foretell a 2 mana play, and then every literal 2-drop a 2 mana play, I bet there's more 2 mana plays at common and uncommon in this set than in any other one we've had in limited. You know, what I'm getting at though is that means we have all sorts of operate in 2s. We're going to be able to operate in 2s everywhere. Well, I can do this for 2, I can do that for 2, I can do that for 2. And when you're operating in 2s everywhere, 1 mana suddenly becomes excellent because you can fill in the gaps with it, right? You'd be like, okay, I got, you know, I'm gonna do these. I got 5 mana. I'm gonna foretell, and 1-drop, right? So anyway, I think 1-drops are gonna be more valuable in this set than previously because of their ability to fill in the corners of mana efficiency in the context of a foretell set. Okay. Anyway, but I don't think that's top 3. We'll see. Gonna have to figure out what our top 3 is somehow. Giant Ox, 1 and a white for an 06 that crews using its toughness. Great flavor. Is it good? What's its job? Its job is to block, obviously. Obviously, its job is also to crew, but I think that's going to be less incidental to the job of blocking aggro on early in the game. So, doubt this is top 3. Doubt this is a important card, except for, but I mean, if this is hyper aggro and like 5 is an important amount of power in the set, you're going to do worse if you're trying to go long. God's Hall Guardian is 6 mana foretell for a 3/6 vigilance. I heard, I'm not through the limited resources set review yet. I'm mostly through it. I'm through the white section. I liked what they were saying about this one, and that this is a great place for foretell in general. Just these 6 drops where you can split up between 2 first and then 4 later really helps you cast 6-drop level power without having 6 mana. That's pretty cool. But this isn't top 3. Goldmaw Champ, 2 and a white for a 2/3 with Boast, 1 and a white, tap target creature. That is pretty aggro. And I think it's going to be pretty good as a, you know, a white aggro deck curves out and then it turns like 6+ is saying, how do I close out the game? The Boast on Goldmaw Champ is a good answer to how an aggressive white deck is going to close out the game at 6+ mana. It's a bad 6-drop, but it is 6-drop level. You could make this as 5. Like you could absolutely make a like a 3 white 3/6 vigilant 5-drop. That would be fine. But you hear what I mean. Invoke the Divine. I don't know if we're main decking that best of 1. I don't know the format well enough yet, but certainly not top 3. Iron Verdict, 2 and a white instant. Iron Verdict deals 5 damage to target tapped creature, foretell for a single white. Here we go. Here's another removal spell. I'm putting that in the top 5. But so far, boring, right? So far, 2 removal spells in our top top 3. Sorry, not top 5, top 3. But a foretell verdict is nice. I like these. I like foretell on the situational stuff when you can pay a down payment on your situational card while you have the mana, and then get the situational side for nice and cheap when the situation arises. That's pretty strong. Master Scald, meanwhile, 4 and a white for a 4/4. When it enters the battlefield, you may exile a creature card from your graveyard. Okay, we were talking about is there grave? You know, looking at the signpost uncommons. Black white was looking at graveyard stocking, and here we see how it's useful for white. And if you're doing this thing, it's very good. If you're getting back anything of value, this becomes excellent, right? Becomes one of your better cards. Revitalize, we've seen this, just kind of filler. I don't know if this is top 3. Maybe too expensive. I think, let's see, Stalwart Valkyrie is 3 and a white for a 3/2, and you may pay 1 and a white and exile a creature card from your graveyard rather than pay this spell's mana cost. It's got to be a creature card, but that's more graveyard stocking goodness. I'm going to put this as top 3. This seems like the ability to pay 2 mana for a 3/2 flyer, even though it's not likely to happen on turn 2 often, is still top 3 contender in my consideration. Even if you're just on turn 5, casting a 3-drop and this, that's a heck of a... sets up really nice 2-spell turns and aggressive outpourings. So I'm going to put Stalwart Valk on our list and see if any of these other creatures beat it in top 3. Starnheim Courser, 2 and a white for a 2/2 flying. That can't be top 3, but it's an interesting build around. You know, if you're generally going to be reasonably happy to play a Windrake if you're aggressive in the air. Although Windrake has lost its luster as ground creatures have gotten better. The whole manage the ground while you win in the air blue-white strategy has gotten worse over the years as ground creatures have gotten better and more tramply, you know? So that's something to keep in mind. But yeah. Story Seeker, 2/2 lifelink for 2. Very nice, but filler. I mean, it's not top 3. I think it's in your top 5 probably, though. I'd be happy to grab this and play it in just about anything. Yeah, so I say curve filler. Like, I mean, this is really what you want to fill your 2s. Like, I don't mean filler as in not good. I mean that this is how you want to fill your curve, your 2 curve. Curve filler, not deck filler. Valor of the Worthy, single white for an aura. Yeah, this is interesting for the aggro. It's got the fill in the corner thing I was talking about with single mana. It has the clause, leaves the battlefield, not dies. So no matter what they do to the thing, you will get a spirit out of it. But this is a very hyper aggro card. Here we have our Warhorn Blast. I was talking about keeping a lookout for Team Pump. We got our Team Pump, and it's a Foretell Team Pump. So again, this is actually where I don't care about the Foretell. I think I'm just as likely to... I'm probably... this is the least likely to foretell card I think I've seen so far, in the sense that usually when I want to do this, it's the last spell I cast in the game, and I've got 6 mana anyway, you know? Wings of the Cosmos, a single white mana for a medium trick. Thank you for that sub. Chesapeake with 20 months. Thank you so much. Yeah, this is not a great inspired charge, but if it's what you need, you'll run it, right? I mean, if you're doing the go wide, you play your Warhorn Blast. That's just how it works. But it's worth noting that, yeah, not amazing. We're not in love with this, but I think it just really does do the job of every other one of these we've seen. Like, I would rather have a 4 mana one. But you're still going to, for the most part, cast this when you need to win the game with it. Wings of the Cosmos is the kind of I mean, it does some stuff. 1+1/+3 flying, untap it. It does some stuff, but I think it's going to come up short, as these often do. This is no feat of resistance, you know, but you look out for that. Like, that's the thing. Replace Wings of the Cosmos with feat of resistance, and suddenly white is one of the better colors in this, you know, in the format, right? That's how good feat of resistance is, and how I get that feat is not 1 mana, Fenor. I'm talking about the job they do, though, in terms of being interactive. You know, a utility trick, right? I mean, because this on its face, this is a combat trick that saves your creature, but you can also use it to win the game. You can use it to ambush something on defense and get them, you know. So I'm just saying it's doing a similar job in the format that Feat of Resistance was doing for M21 and Cons, but Feat of Resistance is just miles better is all I'm saying. And we're looking for what's good about colors. So answering the colors about white, I think it's pretty, yeah, I like Bound in Gold, Iron Verdict, and Stalwart Valkyrie as the top 3. I don't know if anybody else wants to push back on that, but Story Seeker good at 2. There does appear to be a lot of aggro weenie stuff going on between Codespell Cleric and the Raptor and the Shieldmate. The tools are here for white to go hard and fast and low down, and not like one thing I'm noticing is missing here is the old 5 mana flyer. Did I miss it? Is there one? No. Like sometimes white has that relevant 5 mana 3/4 flyer with something, and it doesn't here, so that's worth noting at least. All right, so now we're gonna move on. I'm gonna go. I'm gonna leave that one up. And switch this to blue. You like Axgard Braggart? It looks like it's kind of doing the Felidar, you know, the it's that white 4-drop that can get bigger and bigger and bigger, but unlike the landfall one, you don't need a specific card in your hand to make it happen. You just need to be able to attack. So I agree that I like it. I think it's a little better, but it doesn't crack top 3 or anything. You'd put Axgard Braggart above Stalwart Valkyrie for your 3rd slot. Yeah, well, let's move on. Point is, we're just trying to do a nice color assessment, see what it's up to. Now we have blue, Augury Raven. If we thought that the Valkyrie is pretty good, Augury Raven has to be in consideration too. I think Augury Raven might be in the tops. It's probably top 3 for blue. I mean, heck, I think a 3/3 flyer for 4 might be top 3 for blue, much less foretelling it. So we'll start with, we'll put Raven on the list of top 3 blue. Behold the Multiverse. Scry 2, then draw 2, foretelling for one in a blue. Scry 2, draw 2 is so much better than draw 2. I don't want to let that slip by unnoticed. It's a big deal when you can look at up to 4 cards before you make that divination play. And so I think I am going to put Behold on the list as well as top. I think Behold is top 3. The divination, the card draw. This is good card draw. We'll call that top 3. We'll see. Maybe something will knock it off. Bergstrider, 4 and a blue. This is the 4/4 freezing giant. Fine. It's kind of like a chili bee, except on the ground and a little bigger. Bind the Monster is our Swords to Plowshares. Enchant creature, tap it, and it deals damage to you equal to its power. Is that... It's so cheap. I think this is probably also going to be top 3. It's got problems, though. Yeah, it depends on how controlling blue is and how much blue can be in a position to actually play this. I'm saying this is a maybe. I think I like the other two better. I would take Behold and Raven over Bind, but right now it would be my third over Berg. Brine Barrow Intruder. Oh yeah, we know this one. This is fine, but it's not a top 3. Depart the Realm. 1 in a blue. Bounce. It's non-land permanent, not creature. That's worth knowing. And the Foretell. This is a nice one to set up for later. I don't, saving this for the right time when you can sneak it down for 2 mana seems nice to me. Disdainful Stroke we know is good for... I think there's something mentioned on LR worth mentioning here. Note that Disdainful Stroke actually has the capability of being cast earlier than turn 4 for the first time, because let's see if we can find an example. Like Augury Raven, for example. Let's say I'm on the draw and you're on the play. You go turn 1 island. I go turn 1 island. You go turn 2 island. Augury Raven, pay the Foretell cost. I go turn 2, play my island and pass. Then you, on your turn 3, attempt to foretell your Augury Raven. I, on turn 2, could actually cast usefully Disdainful Stroke. So I think Disdainful Stroke was already a pretty good card to have some game against big stuff from your opponent, and knowing that it would be a tempo advantage to do so. Now you even have the potential to stroke stuff earlier on than before. So keep that in mind. Well, I think Disdainful Stroke was main deckable best of 1 in Guilds of Ravnica. Sometimes you were burned by it, when sometimes Boros didn't offer you a ton, but even Boros offered you some stuff. Anyway, I think this is main deckable, yeah. Thought Thief, 2 and a blue for a 3/2, and when it enters the battlefield, look at the top card of target player's library. You may put that card in their graveyard. That's more mean than top 3, but playable. Frostpeak Yeti, 3 and a blue for a 3/3. 1 a snow, can't be blocked this turn. We've seen Hill Giants that have some sort of specialty unblockability in blue before, and they've been mixed bag. It often just depends on how aggro blue is. If when blue is pretty aggro and tempo, I like this. Although sometimes just in a controlling deck, you need something that eventually gets the job done. And so this does do that job, but I don't think it's top 3. Harbinger, 1 in a blue for a 1/3 that taps for specialty mana. I suppose if you're deep into Foretell, you could do worse here. But it's not top 3. And 1/3 for 2. If it's hyper aggro where a 1/3 on turn 2 is a blocker we need, then this could be much better. But yeah, I like Arcanist, so this is fine. If you're doing the Foretell thing, which most people in blue are. If you are, I think you're not doing it right if you're in blue and not foretelling. Kinseekers here, 3 and a blue for a 2/4 changeling. When it enters the battlefield, if you control 3 or more creatures that share a creature type, put a +1/+1 counter. Very nice payoff for Shapeshifter Tribal, but not top 3 because of its build-around-y nature. Mists of Hardword. Flash, -3, -0. So maybe this is, maybe we'd rather have Mists than even Bind? I don't know, Mists versus Bind. Bind gets anything, but of course the bigger it gets, the harder you're going to fall, whereas Mists only gets small stuff. Well, I knew you were going to say that, Jinx, since you called Bind like unplayable or whatever, like bottom 3, but that's not true. Mistwalker is 2 and a blue for a 1/4 changeling. That's cool. Flying changeling is neat. And it can adjust its power toughness. I like that. A little expensive to adjust the power toughness, but I think the changeling glue, given that we've seen that blue is heavily interested in tribal stuff, I think Mistwalkers are going to be good, but also I would call it not top 3. Pilfering Hawk, looting Hawk. If you're heavy snow, I'm in, but light snow seems like maybe it's not doing it. Maybe if you're light snow but actually want to augment flyers, then this is okay. Raven form, 2 and a blue. Speaking of, I thought Raven form was going to be like an aura that gives something flying, but exile target artifact or creature. Its controller creates a 1/1 blue bird creature token with flying. And it's got foretell. Wow. And look at blue handling artifacts. Let's not let that go unnoticed. Raven form, tough to value because against a weenie deck, this is as bad as it gets. Like, imagine casting this on some 3/2 or something. It's like, oh my god, I turned their 3/2 into a 1/1 flyer. Like, that is not good enough. They're still beating me down. But the ability to get anything is very strong. So I think this is an excellent best of 3 card, and this is a sketchy best of 1 card. Sometimes in best of 1, you're going to really groan if you're counting on this. But best of 3, when you can really control when it's in, it's nice. And also keep in mind, like, when you have ability to manage, like if you've got a huge air force of your own, this becomes a lot better because you don't really care about a 1/1 flyer. But yeah, you don't want a ton of them either. But I think that's fine. I don't know if it's top 3. Run ashore for blue for an effect that we've seen a bunch. It's whatever. It's certainly not top 3. Strategic planning, not top 3. And maybe in its worst spot ever. I think Luis said that, and I agree. Like, in a foretell set, what do you need strategic planning for? And then Undersea Invader for blue. Oh, I hate this card. Definitely not top 3. So really, I think I didn't hear anybody pushing back on Raven and Behold in the top 3. But then what is the other top 3? It's probably one of these removal spells, but which one? So I need a quick bio break. I'm going to put a poll, and you're going to help me figure out what the third best blue color is. And sure, you can give me your nominations. Give me your nominations, and I'll put them on the list. Raven form is nominated. Bind is nominated. And Mists, I'll put Mists, Depart. Raven form. I've called Augury, Raven, and Behold. I'm saying these are 1, 2, and if you disagree with me, I don't care. I'm saying I want these in the top 3, and then I want you all to tell me what the third one is. There's a hawk here? What is even the hawk? Mistwalker? Oh, Pilfering Hawk. You think Pilfering Hawk? Well, I'll put it on the list. I don't think Pilfering Hawk... No, I'm not. I don't think Pilfering Hawk... You can't put a only good in snow decks card in the top 3. No way. No way. Mistwalker? Sure. I'll put that on the list. It's doing a lot of things. But here we go. I'm going to give you other, at least. So if you think I'm way off... If you vote for other, though, immediately follow with what your other is, okay? And I'm going to give you this poll while I take a bio break, and then we'll be back to see what you think the top 3 are. Be right back. All right. What do y'all think? Interesting. I wouldn't have put Mistwalker as top 3. I think it'll be good. I don't know about top 3. I'm kind of with the bind client, the bind folks. That I just think, yes, there's a harsh penalty on bind, but it is so cheap. But I will put Mistwalker, chat, and bind me in my notes, just out of curiosity. We'll see. Maybe we'll revisit this at the end of the format. See if we agree. See where we have our top 3 at the end of that. But let's move on to the next color. Oh, but before we move on to the next color, again, I want to call out also the things we're looking for in blue when we're assessing blue as a color in a new set, and I want to know what its divination is, and we have a divination and we think it's top 3, or at least I do. It's possible that this falls out of the top 3. If Behold the Multiverse isn't good, it just means that aggro is insane in the format. If this, like, Behold the Multiverse would not be good in, like, Triple Zendikar, for example. So there are formats where Behold the Multiverse would not be good. If this is one of them, it just means it's hyper aggro. And then I want to know about the bounce in the set and whether it gets creatures or permanents, how good it is. So there is bounce. There's only one. Do we see sometimes there's multiple bounce spells? Is there any? Yeah, there's Run Ashore as well, although this isn't quite as good. But that's it. So, and there's some freezing. I'm always wondering how blue is going to help me survive till the late game, where it can attrition the opponent out. And it's got some stuff, but maybe it feels a little light on that. Maybe that's why Mistwalker is up there, certainly in card quality, that a 1/4 on 3 is kind of what blue needs to make it to the late game. It's got some enough early removal tools, though, that it looks like it does have the tools to get late, you know? No, what I would note here, I think this is the first time. Well, I actually haven't looked out for it specifically, so someone will call me on it right away. But I will say, I was going to say it's the first time in a long time, but instead I will say it is noteworthy to me that neither white nor blue have a 5-mana do something flyer at common. Like, there's no 5-mana flyer between the two of them. I find that very unusual and worthy of note. Yeah. Augury Raven is almost big enough to qualify, but it's, basically Augury Raven is replacing the 5-drop flyer, it seems. Okay. That's blue for you. Let's check. Oops. Check black. Death Knell Berserker, 2/2. If it dies, yeah, it seems fine. Power 3 or greater. Oh, you have to make it big. So not it's fine, but it's definitely not top 3. It's a bear that if you do some work, it dies for some benefit. Fun. I like the design. I just don't think it's top 3 level. And nor is it super relevant for like what we're asking about black. Although I guess one relevant thing is that it's got a decent grizzly bear at 2 toughness, like legit. Like, this is where, are we seeing a lot of 1 toughness? Like, because you could see a world in which this would be a 2/1, and then suddenly all those 1/1 tokens floating around change value with depending on where the commons line up with 1/1s. Demonic Gifts, though, is 1 in a black instant. Oh, we've seen this kind of thing. Not top 3, not particularly important, but it's a combo with Death Knell Berserker, I suppose. Dogged Pursuit, 3 in a black enchantment. At the beginning of your end step, each opponent loses 1 life and you gain 1 life. This screams as another Ill-Gotten Inheritance, but Ill-Gotten Inheritance takes 1 more turn to get going. Dogged Pursuit starts at the end of your turn instead of the beginning of your next one. So Dogged Pursuit gets going a turn faster than IGI, but IGI had the 6 mana finish, and that almost always mattered. It was very rare that I won with IGI on under 6 mana, and it just happened to finally get them from 1 to 0 on upkeep. In this case, you don't get the, all right, I got you within range, and now I fire it off and you're dead. So I think this is worse than IGI, even though it starts a turn early, but it will still do that job, and it's still, like IGI, doesn't really crack the top 3, I think, for the colors. But black is always tough to crack. You know you're going to give black 2 slots to removal, right? So you're really looking for what's the third best black card, and is it just the third removal spell, or is it 3? Is there a creature that qualifies? Anyway, we'll keep looking. Recruiter, 3/3 for so we got a Hill Giant here, and you can boast for 4 to return target creature card from your graveyard to your hand. That seems pretty strong, although often the problem with Hill Giants is that even though they look decently appealing at 3/3 for 3, often what happens is 3/3 for 4, what happens is a turn later at 5 mana, your opponents are dropping things that just immediately outclass it to the point that it's not doing anything. It's not really able to do its thing. So you might find yourself in a spot where you're having to suicide attack with the Recruiter to pay 4 to get an upgrade to something else. So I don't know if this is interesting, but still there's something about the 3/3 for 4 that is just small. It's just too small these days. It just gets so outclassed so quickly at that cost, you know, because you're right around the corner from the big boys coming out at 5. I lost my chat because I stopped scrolling with it. Dread Rider, 5 and a black, 3/7. I talked about this one on the stream before. This is I didn't draft a good finisher, so I'll use this one, but it's not top 3. More closer, yeah, not top 3 for sure. Dusk Wielder, a single black for 1/2, and a boast of 1 Draenum. So that's interesting. It effectively is if you have the mana, it attacks like it's even better than a 2-power 1-drop, but mana is a thing. You don't get it for free. It costs you. Very hyper aggro. Another worth calling out that it's a 1-drop, so it does that thing where you can with an odd number of mana do your foretelling and your dusk wielding. Yeah, you can only boast once per turn. So if boasts were multiples, this would be insane, right? If you get to the turn 7 and be like, all right, I attack with my Dusk Wielder and pump 6 into it. Yeah, that would be crazy good. Elderfang Disciple, 1 and a black. When Elderfang Disciple enters the battlefield, oh, here's our Rat Burglar.
Some say I never heard of ya, a rat burglar.
Some say I never heard of ya, an Elderfang Disciple. Rolls right off the tongue. Yeah, playable. The question with rat style cards is, what can you do with that body? Sure, you get a card, but if you can't name what job the 1/1 is doing for you, it's not that great. But if you have good sacrifice, I'm sacrificing for value. The format is loaded with 1 toughness. Like, that's why I liked the original Burglar Rat. One of the reasons it was good in the set is that so much of the Boros aggro that was also good was 1 toughness. So you could play a Burglar Rat on 2 and block their 3/1 mentor dude and kill it, you know? So yeah, dudes in the graveyard matter. That's a great point. We see a lot of exile creature from Graveyard. I'm making a note of that too, as like mechanics we're seeing a bunch of. So very good there. But probably not top 3. Anyway, Feed the Serpent, 2 black, instant, exile target creature or planeswalker. All right, there you go. Easy first candidate for top 3. Feed the Serpent. Nothing much to say there other than we're going to be casting that a lot. Grim Draugr, 2 and a black for a 3/2 that snows up. This reminds me, there was an Oath of the Gatewatch creature that was like this. And if you're heavy snow, this is going to be all right. If you're not heavy snow, it's going to be pretty medium. Oh, sorry. Yeah, I switched scenes and then forgot about it. Here you go. Apologies. Yeah, you're right. This is not a reading stream. Feed the Serpent, 2 black, exile. Anyway, obviously great. Grim Draugr, as I was saying, 2 and a black, 3/2 snow-based evasion. Solid if you're heavy snow, but we're not going to call that top 3 for sure. Draugr's fine if you don't need to be heavy snow. You need to be medium snow. I'm not super happy to only do this once. Although even then, it's not. You could do worse. But the trouble is, if you're light snow, often this is going to be a 3/2 for 3, and that's not good enough. So I really want to be enough snow to reliably activate this. Infernal Pet, 2 and a black for a 2/2. Whenever you cast your second spell each turn, put a +1/+1 counter on Infernal Pet, and it gains flying until end of turn. I like it. I don't know if it's top 3, but if you're doing the second spelling, which it seems like there's a lot of tools to do, this is kind of like the red whenever you cast a spell type. Although that's not fair, because those you can really build around. I don't know, how many times are we going to cast 2 spells in a turn after we do this? Yeah. I don't want to get too deep into assessing how good this is. I just don't think it's top 3 right now, and it's worth noting that I think it's top something though. Like, I think this is going to be a real player. Jarl of the Forsaken, 3 and a black, 3/2. When it enters the battlefield, destroy target creature or planeswalker an opponent controls that was dealt damage this turn with Foretell. Again, a situational thing with Foretell I really like. So I like the Foretell part on it. Maybe this could even be potentially top 3, but I feel like I do want to note this as something to kill. There's a big difference between sets that have a kill a thing that's damaged effect at common and ones that don't. So this is a format defining card in that way. So I don't want to pass that by before noting the huge difference in how you plan your turns in a world in which someone might leap out and kill a damaged thing versus not. So keep that in mind, and we'll see if this is top 3 or not. But remember, Jarl will explain a lot of weird-looking attacks. Why are they sending that 1/1 token? Probably Jarl. That's probably why. Yeah, a lot of Foretell mini-games. I've got 3 Foretell cards face down. Which ones are they? That's the other thing you're going to be able to narrow down. We're going to have to remember what Foretell... What that Foretell card might be, and being able to manage those possibilities. Kennel Master here is 4 and a black for a 4/4. When enters the battlefield, 2 target creatures get buffed and indestructible. It's a fine-looking curve topper for an aggressive black deck, but I don't think it's top 3 material or even really close to it at 5 mana. Too much competition. Koma's Faithful, 3 and a 1, lifelink. When it dies, each player mills 3 cards. A role player, but not important, and worthy of noting the 1 toughness, another thing that suffers if there's a lot of tokens flying around. Priest of the Haunted Edge. 04. We've talked about this one too. Not top 3. Build around. Although something I want to note about this from a design standpoint, I do like designs like this. The point of this design is to give a reward to the committed snow player that nobody else wants. You kind of want that for most of your decks. Like if you define what your 10 archetypes are, you should be planting some cards for each archetype that the other archetypes don't really want, so that you feel rewarded when you get them late. Another example of that from Zendikar just is like a chilling trap. You know, does this color have a chilling trap? Or does this archetype have a chilling trap? Something that nobody else is going to want, that for me is like B- level power. Like when you can get 13th pick B- because you're in the right archetype, that's a really powerful thing. Again, though, not top 3. Raise the Draugr, 1 in a black. Choose 1 modal spell here. Return target creature card from your graveyard to your hand. Return 2 target creature cards that share a creature type from your graveyard to your hand. So we were talking about how green and blue are the shape-shifting colors, which is the type of thing that makes this easy. But we also saw that green-black is trying to do some tribal stuff, so maybe in green-black this is going to be significant. Yeah, it is an instant. I'm not sure why it's an instant. Usually things are not instants unless they need to be to function properly. But that's not a reason that R&D makes things instants true. That would get you laughed at. You know, like you don't just make something instant because it's better. You have to have, you usually have a reason. But it could be that they want you to be able to 2-spell on your opponent's turn, getting back something with flash and flashing it in. I mean, you can come up with the mechanical ways in which the instant speed is relevant. I'm not saying I can't conceive of a place where instant speed raised dead is better than sorcery speed. Of course, there's places where it's better. The question is just why. Why did R&D make that choice? I'm not sure, but I'm not going to dwell on it any longer here. Skull Raid. We talked about this pretty heavily too. Someone was asking, I had mentioned that if this format turns out to be grindy and slow, some players are going to, if they're against black, start to be able to sandbag a couple of lands, so that Skull Raid forces the discard of 2 useless lands and doesn't give you any draws. But that doesn't mean it's not playable. It just means it's a downside of the card. If this is another place where I'd like to know what my opponent is before I'm playing this or not. I think Skull Raid is a liability against aggro, and that's the place to keep in mind where you don't want Skull Raid. I'm less worried about a long game opponent sandbagging a couple of lands to make this weak than I am to just losing to aggro before I can do anything with it at all. So keep that in mind. But it's a good. It's nice that it makes up for the. I have no problem main decking this, but if it's in best of 3, there's certainly matchups where I'm going to pull this, and maybe the format tells us we can't play this. Maybe the format tells us this is great. These are one of the things to look out for in black. What does the discard look like at common in black? Is it any good? And does the format support it? And the answers have been pretty varied on that front. Turned out Mind Drain was nicely supported in Zendikar because it touched on a lot of other things that were mechanically relevant to the format. And the nature of other mechanics in the format, like Kicker and card draw in general, would have people with cards in hand late when they didn't always have them in other sets. So that's what made discard, for example, good in Zendikar. Village Rites, useful, good to keep in mind. Sacrifice, like when you have value sacrifice, like Village Rites, you can just play in a deck that's black and has creatures. You don't need it to be any different. You don't need to have anything but swamps and creatures for Village Rites to be playable. It simply goes up, 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 up in value as you get rewards for sacrificing things and as you synergize with that. You know, so like Steal and Sack, the classic red-black strategy that is often underpowered in Limited, can be juiced by something like Village Rites, where you can play that sack outlet because it's good, not just because it's waiting for that one specific red card to pair it with. So I don't know if it's top 3, but this is definitely playable. I keep saying that about these black cards. We're going to have to figure out what top 3 is. Way down, I have Hope 4. Sounds like removal. As an additional cost to cast this spell, exile a creature card from your graveyard. Target creature gets -3/-3 until end of turn. Feels like some constructed decks are going to get a lot of mileage out of this. I don't know how much of a drawback that the exile cost is, but the thing is, at 1 mana, it doesn't worry me too much because, again, let's say, finally, at turn 5, we have a dead creature in the graveyard. I'm happy to play a 4-mana spell and a way down on turn 5, right? That's still pretty good. Well, but I gotta say, I'm a little surprised. Like, I was waiting for the incredible removal, and we only saw the 1 in Feed the Serpent. Yes, instant speed -X is super powerful because of how it lets you win combat. This doesn't let you do that. There's uncommon removal that's great, sure. Wither Crown. Well, this is interesting. Enchanted creature has base power 0 and has, at the beginning of your upkeep, you lose 1 life unless you sacrifice this creature. Medium-ish. It is good in control where you're not trying to crack back, but it doesn't. I mean, if they end up sacrificing it, sure. Yeah, definitely no Stab Wound, which is what it makes me think of Stab Wound. But Stab Wound you had no way out of unless you unless you did something, use resources on it. Wither Crown lets the person get out from under the oppression when they want to. They can just choose to sack it. But at that point, you've gotten a Doomblade, so that's not the worst. So this is kind of like a fixed Stab Wound. And wow, I'm a little flummoxed on top 3 here. I mean, Feed the Serpent is a no-brainer, but give me your other recommendations and I'll pull it all. Give me your nominations for Jarl. People like the Jarl. Let's do that. I think I'm in for Jarl. Disciple or Elderfang. Think the rat's going to be that good. Pet will refer to this infernal pet here. -3/-3 is way down, so I'll call that way. Wither for Wither Crown and Gift. What's the gift? Demonic Gifts. Demonic Gifts isn't top 3, no way. Am I missing some other gift we're talking about? I'm not putting gift on. You can like Demonic Gifts, but I don't think you can reasonably claim that this is a top 3 black common in the set. I did not put Crown down. Oh, wait. Which one is it's the Crown, though, right? I did. I put it as Wither. Wither Crown. Wither Crown is on the list. Oh, yeah, Raise. We should consider Raise the Draugr, although I think it's too narrow to be top 3. I'm not going to put Raise on. If this were if you could raise 2 without needing to be in a specific match, archetype, I'd be in. But raise 1, raise 2 if you're in a specific deck, not good enough for top 3, I don't think. Right now I have Jarl, Elderfang, Pet, Way, and Wither, and I think that's going to be fine. Mike says Serpent. What's the Serpent? Oh, Serpent is already... Yeah, Serpent is a given. But I think we have the main contenders here. So I'm going to run it now. I didn't put other there, but you can write other if you want, and I'll take a note that you disagree. Nope, you got to pick the one you think absolutely... yeah. I'm just going to go for top 2. This isn't definitive anyway. We're just taking a look. It's also very hard for us to know this without playing. I've talked about how R&D does this, but they do this after they've play tested the set a bunch. So this is they're making these rankings based on play experiences as well. And if Jarl is clearly winning, you could maybe vote for your second place if you think Jarl is obvious. Try to affect the second place vote. Queen makes a point I want to get into when we start talking mechanics. That's probably what I'm going to do to wrap up. We'll look at the common colors, and then just talk about the set mechanics and the implications therein. Call that a stream. But basically, the implication of Foretell is really interesting to how this set is going to play, I think. So Jarl and Elderfang, although Wither close behind. Here, I'll do a quick 20-second runoff poll of Elderfang and Wither to determine third place. Yeah, here's Jarl. Jarl over Elderfang has been called as out of your minds. I don't think it... Well, if I get to vote, I'm going to say Wither over Elderfang. I don't think Rat Burglar is top 3. Yeah. Burglar Rat versus Doomblade. Take the Doomblade. I'm with Hat. All right, cool. And then, so yeah, again, black, I've heard that there's better removal at uncommon, but worth noting that the removal at common, not insane. A little situational, not necessarily going to be a early play when you're doing this way down thing. And Wither Crown gives your opponent some options. So Weezing says Wither is bad. I don't think that's true. It has downsides that you need to be aware of, Weezing, but to call it bad is oversimplification of a less powerful removal spell than we're used to seeing. And one of the things that makes it weaker is that if you're aggressive on the ground and you put this on a ground creature, they get basically some damage prevention. Yeah, they're losing life until they sack it, but if they get to jump in front of your 5 power creature, they've gained 5 life over a traditional removal spell. That being said, if you're trying to win through the air or with evasion or in generally go long, it gets closer and closer to Doomblade the less aggro you are. And that's a useful way to talk about how this is not as good as a lot of less conditional removal in the past, but to blanket just snap call it bad because it's not as good as removal has been historically underserves the card and underserves our discourse to try to determine if and when we should play it. So be super aware of where it gets worse, but calling it bad and moving on is going to lose you EV. But we will call it not as premium as we've seen in the past and move on, and then moving on to the red. All right, my questions for red in terms of what we're looking for at common. What's the burn spells here? How do the weenies look? What are the combat tricks like? Are they anytime or is it attackers only? Is there team pump in red? Sometimes when there's team pump in red and white, you know you've got the hyper aggro go wide Boros. Is there first strike at common? Often first strikes is just sneakily hard to deal with, and so I like to keep an eye on any high power first strike that happens to be in red. And also, I guess I would say, what is the rummaging? Does red have good card selection rummaging? Mostly it usually has barely playable rummaging, but sometimes it has good rummaging, and that's relevant. All right. So keeping those in mind, Axe Guard Cavalry, we've got our Grizzly Bear with an ability. Boy, when I started at Wizards of the Coast in like the 10 years ago, red did not get Grizzly Bears at common. Red got Goblin Pikers. If you were a red common two power creature, you were a Goblin Piker and you better like it. Now, not only they get Grizzly Bears, they get good stuff, but that's appropriate. You got to creep up the power of those commons to meet the needs of your game's current needs, and I think it's correct to do so. But this is a cool one because it's I like that it does its job as a straight up Grizzly Bear for a few turns, and then it helps your bigger stuff get online faster. Breakneck Berserker. When I was a boy, we paid 4 mana for this and we liked it. 3/2 haste in red for 4 mana was real pressure when I was a boy. Now it's got to be 3 mana, and even then it's how good is it? We'll see. I think this is pretty good. This is I'll get into what I liked about what Queen said. Queen was saying she was thinking that 1-drops specifically are going to be better than average because so many people are going to be foretelling on 2. And I agree that is the case, but I think to take it a step further, Queen, I think that the fact that a lot of people are going to be spending their second turn foretelling is generally going to mean that just aggro has an interesting role in this format. Fun Police are really going to hurt you for foretelling early. And Breakneck Berserker, like Axe Guard Cavalry on the play into Breakneck Berserker when your opponent is spending their second turn foretelling is a beating. That is like, yeah, I foretell that you're going to die soon, buddy, right? So keep that in mind. That I'm really wondering how Fun Police look in this format and how no foretell aggro does in controlling the format. So Cinderheart Giant, speaking of controlling the format, is a 7 mana 7/6 with trample. When it dies, it deals 7 to a random effect, which first of all is very digital. I don't think R&D says they're not designing, the game is not just becoming digital or whatever, and people get too worried about that. But it is worth noting that this is the type of thing that digital makes it easier enough to do that it gets these cards printed more often. It's not easy to randomize 7 damage on a board full of opponent's creatures in paper, but digital just does it for you, right? Craven Hulk, 4/4, can't block alone for 4. Well, that is going to be relevant sometimes. Just keep in mind if you're looking at your hand and going, okay, well, I'm on the draw. I don't have a very aggressive start, but I do have a 3-drop and a Craven Hulk. Watch out. If they kill your 3-drop and your Craven Hulk can't block, you could be in tough world of hurt. But that's not what this card's real job is. Generally, if you're in a spot where you're sad that the Craven Hulk can't block, you're just generally sad because your game's probably not going the way you want it to. And I think this is going to be a high play. I don't know if it's top 3. Is it top 3? It's very big. But, and I guess if you are on defense, it's not worthless because you just need anything else and you can do it. And yeah, it is. It's a giant, so it plays into that stuff. So maybe it's top 3. We'll see. It is so far, but there's only 4 cards we've looked at. Demon Bolt. I'm guessing this is top 3. What was it? 2 in a red. Demon Bolt deals 4 damage to target creature or planeswalker. Foretell for a single red. Yes. Sign me up. Yes. Yes. Might just be number 1 in the set. Commons could be, but we're certainly putting it in our. If you don't have Demon Bolt in your top 3, you are new to the game. Or you see things in a way that I do not comprehend. Dwarven Reinforcements, 3 in a red, create a couple of dudes. That's fair, but not top 3. This does help. This does signify go wide, though. This further contributes to the presence of Boros go wide, so I want to keep that in mind. Although more 1 toughness, they're weak to tokens. Fearless Pup. First strike 1/1, boast to give +2/+0 for 3. Well, this is going to have quite the threat of activation. It just doesn't threat that much. But I suppose Fearless Pup into Axguard Cavalry, into Breakneck Berserker, into Craven Hulk, while Oppo is off foretelling things, is gonna it's gonna end the game pretty quick. So I'm looking to play this. Yeah, someone brings up equipment. 1/1's cheap. 1-drops are good in worlds where you're often doing things to augment your creatures. So there's good equipment in the set, and that's going to come to play with Fearless Pup, I bet. And boy, when you can increase... I was talking about looking for first strike at common as well, and here's our first striker. It's just small, but if you can do things to increase that power... besides just the boast, you set up for a lot of possibility here. Frostbite, snow instant, deal 2, and then if you control a lot of snow stuff, deal 3. This is going to be a top 3 as well, especially because of how there does look to be like some fun police going on here. I'm going to call it Frostbite. Interesting that Frostbite has never been a card before, and that it's not a blue one. So, I want to talk about shock and how important it can be in a format and how format defining it can be. Shock in some formats has been pretty medium. Sometimes it's like, well, a lot of the toughness is 3. The first one is good, but then you lose targets and you don't have anything to do. Yeah, it doesn't target. I'm saying shock, but it doesn't target players. I get that. But for the purposes of limited, it's a fine place to at least start from as what we're looking at. What I want to get at though is how much this goes up in an aggressive format. In one of the most aggressive formats we've had since the old triple Zendikar that people like to bring up is Amonkhet, triple Amonkhet. In triple Amonkhet, the best common in the format, not even close, was Magma Spray, which is like the shock of that format.